everybody. It is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another episode of Stats, Trends, and Picks over here on That's Comical. And if you're watching and it happens to be a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. Well, we are now officially into 2026. I'm hoping that everybody had a wonderful, happy, healthy, safe holiday season. And now we are getting back to what we love best. Yes, buying a lot of comic books. So, before we get into all the usual stuff, I actually wanted to bring up a very interesting statistic as we take a look at the numbers for December of 2025. And the thing that I wanted to specifically say was, yes, there was a massive jump in 2025 in terms of my purchasing power for comic books. I went from 2024 buying a total of 604 comics to 2025 buying almost a total of 687 to be exact. That is not including back issues. This is not including variant covers. This is based on one title, one book. And that's a pretty big jump. But there are many reasons as to why this ended up being what it was, and they all revolved around the DC Comics Company. And that is just simply because of the fact that they gave us, starting in the end of 2024, the DC All-In Initiative, which also gave us the Absolute Universe of DC. And right now, what's so interesting is 2025 saw a major shift in regards to the highest selling comic books, and it turns out that DC, towards the end of 2025, for the last couple of months, has practically toppled Marvel's reign for so many years. They've been sitting on that pedestal thanks to the MCU, but DC had finally destroyed their reign, and now DC is at the top. But is that really something that I am extremely happy about? If I'm being perfectly honest with you, not really. And that's actually going to lead into something that I'm going to say a little bit later in this episode. But regardless, I am not going to deny that I have had a good time with the DC All-In Initiative. I got to know these absolute versions of legendary and iconic DC characters, and I've also been enjoying a lot of regular DC titles, especially the ones that Jeremy Adams was doing, as well as Joshua Williamson was doing. And I also will say that probably The Unsung Hero is a title that I'm also going to be bringing up a little bit later, and I'm really surprised that a lot of people are not reading this specific DC title. But I'm also going to say that where my reading truly shined was thanks to Image Comics, along with Spawn, which I'm reading religiously still. It's the Energon universe and the Ghost Machine universe. All of the titles in these two companies within Image Comics have just been firing on all cylinders. Whether you're reading all of them or reading some of them, you just cannot deny that this is some of the best reading that you're going to have. Throw in Tony Fleecs and Trish Forstner's Feral, along with a couple of other Image titles, a little from Boom, a little from Dark Horse, and then you get into the other grouping that really shocked me, and that was all of the nostalgic titles, mostly from Dynamite Entertainment, whether it was Thundercats, whether it was Silverhawks, whether it was Space Ghost, but there were a couple of others. I actually started reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Saturday Morning Adventures from IDW, and probably the biggest surprise was, even though I'm still not reading a ton of their titles, Mad Cave Studios has just stepped up their game, and you will also hear me talk about them a little bit later in the program. But yes, Image Comics and DC just took the comics world by storm, and the other conglomerate for me was not too far behind. Take a look at the individual numbers for December. 21 comics from Image, 18 from DC, and 17 from the other conglomerate. And then you take a look at Marvel, who really has dipped. We'll take a look at those percentages. Almost 30% for DC and the other, and almost 32% for Image, and we see Marvel almost at 13%. But let's take a look at that graph, everybody. See that red line? That red line has not even gotten to be where it used to be. And I took a look at all of my purchasing statistics, because I save everything, and we'll take a look at them in just a second, but Marvel has just been at the very, very bottom, and it's going to continue to be at the very bottom, because in 2026, I personally am going to be making a big change. I am going to be really overhauling my reading habits, because while it was great to get all of this good stuff, there's something that I particularly noticed from Marvel mostly, but now also from DC. Besides the price increases for many books, I'm reading a lot of mediocrity within the big two. And I think I can officially say that it is time for the big two to fall. Because even though I have been having a great time with the All-In Initiative, and even though I have been having a wonderful time reading DCKO, it's just not what DC and Marvel used to be. And this is coming from someone who has read a lot of books from DC and Marvel Comics from the 80s and 90s, when they were very much at their peak. Even in the 2000s, I will definitely give that to them, thanks to things like Blackest Night and Secret Wars. But let's take a look at the annual statistics, which is something that we don't really do until we get to the beginning of the new year. But yes, take a look at where Marvel was back in the January of 2021 and how it fell. Take a look at where DC was and where they ended up even at this point today. But it's not gonna be really good in DC's favor. That blue line is going to go right to where Marvel is going, because I need to start spending wisely, and it is definitely going to be a story of quality over quantity. I will be reading DCKO to the very end, but I will say that I have started to do some research into the next step in Josh Williamson and Zack Snyder's DC run, and that is the next level. I am definitely going to be jumping off a lot of titles. Batman, Aquaman, even Justice League Unlimited. I'm not going to be reading their new story arcs. I will be, however, picking up a couple of the next level books just because of the creative teams that are behind them, like Scotty Young and Jorge Corona on Lobo, Josh Williamson going to be writing a new Legion of Superheroes book. I know a lot of people are excited for Tony Fleek's Deathstroke, but I am not a fan of Deathstroke, so I'm not going to read it. But there are some other interesting writers that are on top that are being mentioned for DC Next Level, and I would love to know what some of them are writing and see if I might be interested in taking a look at their titles. In Marvel's case, once Ultimate Endgame is officially done, I'm officially done with Marvel. There's going to be only one Marvel title that I'm going to be reading, and it's Philip Kennedy Johnson's Infernal Hulk. And who knows how long that book is going to stick around. I know that there are big rumors right now about Brian Michael Bendis coming back to Marvel. Some people think he's going to make the Ultimate Universe 3.0. But you know something? I took my chances. I was very much upset with what happened with Jonathan Hickman's Krakoa Age of X-Men. I haven't picked up a single X-Men title since 750. Just so you know, I've even sold most of my Krakoa Age X-Men at this point in time. I didn't want them anymore. I was furious with how they ended up. And I started reading all the Ultimate titles, and now I'm only reading 2 along with the Ultimate Endgame miniseries. So there has been disappointment after disappointment with Marvel, and that's why I just don't see myself continuing to read Marvel and shedding a ton of DC. I'm going to start reading where it counts. Reading the titles that I am enjoying, reading the titles whose stories I know are fantastic. And that is what I'm going to anticipate. I'm going to see a massive decrease in my inventory. I am definitely going to see a lot less books being bought. I'm definitely going to see, if I'm going to play my cards right, I wouldn't be surprised if I drop from almost 700 to maybe close to 550, maybe even less. But we will see how 2026 goes. All I'm hoping for is that the titles that I'm very interested in are going to continue to be as great as they are. So, how did we do in the last month of 2025, December? Well, It was definitely an interesting month. There were a lot of very interesting reads, but in terms of me predicting correctly, I only did it once, and I'm not upset about that, especially considering the fact that it was a 5-week new comic book month. For the first week of December of 2025, I knew it. I knew it was going to go to Mad Cave Studios, and one of the great titles of 2025, and that is David Pepose and David Tinto's Speed Racer, with number 5 wrapping up their story arc right on time because my rules allow this to be in my best of 2025. Mad Cave giving me this one just to, along with some other great titles, and another one will be showing up in my best of December of 2025, but you know, when you take a look at the Energon universe and the Ghost Machine universe, yes, the stories in those titles are definitely better in terms of plot, in terms of content, in terms of character, but they don't have that fun factor. Every single time I opened up a Speed Racer comic book from issues 1 to issue 5, I just had a blast. This is definitely one of David Pepose's best writes, and I think it's better than Space Ghost. Not to say that Space Ghost is bad, it's still a ton of fun with Volume 2. But I'm definitely anticipating to see Speed Racer continue to show in my top picks of the months, and I'm also anticipating Space Ghost as well. For the second week of December of 2025, I was thinking about possibly making it a tie with a brand new book from Robert Venditti over at Bad Idea with Ordained, a miniseries, as well as the return of The Darkness over at Image Comics, this time done by Mark Silvestri. Both of these books were good. And I also have to say another thing that's also been great is not only is the nostalgia bug hitting me when it comes to classic cartoon television franchises, we're also seeing a big nostalgia bug with a couple of reimagined, reinvented, re-released titles from classic Image. The Darkness is one of them, and Rob Liefeld just came back in a big way with Youngblood. And boy, have they been enjoyable, and I'm really excited for more of these two titles, but neither of them cracked the top spot. As a matter of fact, it went to a Ghost Machine title. It went to Geiger number 19 from Jeff Johns over at Image Comics. Geiger, when this book started, I was excited about it, but I wasn't entirely on board because the miniseries was not what it was cracked up to be. However, thanks to the Ground Zero duology, there was a vast improvement from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, and from issue number 1 to currently with issue 19 of the ongoing series, Geiger has been one of the most anticipated and exciting reads each month. I am so excited for issue number 20 as we get into the important storyline called The Dead American. Very, very excited to see what's going to happen there. For the third week of December of 2025, I thought that it was going to go to W. Maxwell Prince over at DC Comics and the rest of his Ice Cream Man crew with the final issue of Superman the Kryptonite Spectrum. I am really sorry to say that he didn't quite make the landing this time. It was a fun read overall, but the 5th issue, I don't know what to really say about it because it wasn't bad, but it definitely could have been much better. I'm sorry, the landing was just not stuck. But I loved this book. It was definitely one that I talked about, praised, told people you should definitely check this out if you want to see something totally different. But in the end, the top spot that week went to another title from Mad Cave Studios, another nostalgic title, Dick Tracy, issue number 14 from Alex Segarra. This book is still fantastic. This story arc is definitely one of the deeper, more thought-provoking. I never imagined Dick Tracy to go into the direction that this story arc has gone. This has been a fun, exciting read every single time since issue number 1. We've already talked about it in our flashback episodes, and we're hoping to do some more flashback episodes in 2026. Dick Tracy will definitely be featured. If you're not reading Dick Tracy, you've got to check this book out. It is still really, really good. And then we got into the holidays. So for the second to last week of December of 2025, Christmas week, I had a very good feeling about the very first Absolute crossover in DC with Absolute Wonder Woman, issue number 15, where Absolute Wonder Woman met Absolute Batman. As a matter of fact, I backtracked and picked up Absolute Batman 15 to read that Joker story because the hype was real and the story was good. This story? Good. Not great, which is something that I've been saying about DC and Marvel for a while now. I know everyone loves Absolute Wonder Woman. I read the first story arc from issues 1 to 7, and I really did enjoy them. I am definitely going to pick up Absolute Batman 16 so I can see the second half of this crossover, but it just wasn't the best read of the week. The best read of the week was perfect for the holiday season, and I'm also happy to say that I think this is the very first time that this IDW title gets the top spot. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures, issue number 32 by Eric Burnham. This was holly jolly turtle fun. That's all that I'm gonna say. I laughed. I heard Rob Paulson in my ears because it was a Casey Jones and Raphael story. What a delightful holiday read. Perfect for Christmas. I am so excited for the next story arc of Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures. The previous story arc, which I really thought that Saturday Morning Adventures was losing its footing. It came back with issue number 26, and it rolled right into issue 32. Loved every single issue. This is still a winning series, guys. You've got to check out Saturday Morning Adventures, especially if you're a Turtle fan. And then for the final week of December of 2025, the final week of 2025, I decided to be nice and give it to Marvel Comics Denny's Camp's Ultimate Endgame, issue number 1, the 5-issue miniseries that is going to officially end the Ultimate run that started with Ultimate Spider-Man back in 2024. I don't really know what this story was about. It was very confusing, very muddled, and I didn't enjoy it. I am hoping that this redeems itself because I really do want my experience with the Ultimate Universe 2.0 with Marvel to end on a high note. But did my year end on a high note? It certainly did, because the final issue of Thundercats Lost from Ed Bryson over at Dynamite Comics, issue number 10, I did not anticipate this book to end the way it ended and have such a satisfying ending, along with a pretty damn awesome cliffhanger. I've been loving Declan Shalvey's Thundercats title over at Dynamite. So impressed to see that it's still going on. We're approaching issue 25, but this sister miniseries, I didn't really know what I was going to expect. It started off great, had a bit of a lull in the middle, but ended beautifully. And what Dynamite has in store for Thundercats and a couple of other franchises sprinkled in there, I am just so anticipating what Dynamite is going to give me in terms of nostalgic properties in 2026. So that was December 2025. What will be my predictions for January of 2026? Well, I am starting off light. I will definitely say that. I'm definitely starting with a very, very small amount of titles compared to what I'm usually getting. I think in January, I'm only getting 49 books, which is a very, very low number compared to my usual. But as I said, I'm trimming the fat, and I'm not upset about that. I'm just hoping that my reads are great. So for the first week of January of 2026, the unsung hero of the DC All-In Initiative, Jeff Lemire, he has been writing since November of 2024, JSA. It's its own little entity in the All-In universe, not really connected to the main storylines, not even connected to what's taking place in DCKO right now, but holy God, JSA is a fantastic book. It is, I think, the best book in the entirety of the regular DC continuity, not the absolute. I think it's better than Superman. I think it's better than Batman. I think it is better than JLU. Even better than Jeremy Adams' Green Lantern and Aquaman. JSA is not quite there, but when I read JSA, I am reminded of Jeff Johns' JSA run. And that's a great run. Probably one of the best runs that he ever had in DC Comics next to Green Lantern. We're now in JSA Year 1, Chapter 3 for January of 2026, and I cannot wait to read it. I am anticipating another great issue because the first 2 parts of this story arc have been phenomenal. I would definitely say, don't worry about all the continuity of DCKO. Read JSA, you'll be satisfied. For the second week of January of 2026, a book that I was praying was going to come to my local comic book store and into my life is officially happening, because I knew that there was no way that Dan Panosian and Giorgio Spalletta were going to end on 2. Alice is coming back at Boom Studios with a brand new 5-issue miniseries, the conclusion, I am sure, of the Alice Ever After series, with Alice Forever After, number 1 of 5. I have been adoring this take on Alice in Wonderland. I loved the same team's take on Peter Pan with The Last Boy last year, but knowing that the trilogy will officially be completed in 2026, I am so excited for this first issue. I am anticipating an amazing start to a final installment of this trilogy. For the third week of January of 2026, I am looking forward to the finale of the Tommy Lee Edwards individual Gatchaman one-shots over at Mad Cave Studios. And this, of course, is Gatchaman Jinpei Henshin. I have been enjoying every single one of them. I think my favorite one to this day is still the June, but Jinpei, I'm looking forward to seeing Tommy Lee Edwards put a pretty bow on these one-shots because I have loved each and every one of them. If you're not reading the ongoing story, I highly recommend that you do. Unfortunately, Cullen Bunn doesn't seem to be the writer on the book anymore, but Sam Humphries is starting off a little bit shaky, but I think he's finally found his footing because I've been loving his current story arc, his first, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where Gatchaman is going to continue over at Mad Cave Studios. And for the final week of January of 2026, there's a lot of titles to be excited about, but only one is the one that I'm the most excited about, and it's Fleecs and Forstner, it's Image Comics, it's Feral issue number 20, and if you can see the image, the cover just says it all. After this issue, everything changes. The story arc is concluding, and I am just really excited to see how this arc is going to end, because I didn't know if I was going to be reading Feral at this point in time. I had been saying to my peers, because we've been reviewing this by volume, Fleecs and Forstner have really got to wow me if they're going to want to keep me on board with this, because Stray Dogs was a classic. It was 5 contained issues. This is a long, ongoing series. There's a lot that you can think of. There's lots of stories that you can do, but you got to execute them well, and I have to say that this past story arc that is about to conclude, they have been killing it. Pun intended. This has been an amazing book, and I am so excited for the conclusion of this arc and moving on to arc number 5 in 2026. So that is going to wrap up my first of Stats, Trends, and Picks for 2026. Please let me know how your December of 2025 went. Let me know if you agree with me about my thoughts on Marvel and DC. What are you looking forward to the most in the beginning of 2026? Are you planning to read more? Are you planning to read less? Are you planning to stop altogether or just read a ton more that will make your wallet want to kill you? Please put your comments in the box below. I'd love to have a conversation with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing how 2026 pans out. I'll see you in the next one.